love being able to make money as an artist. And I used to just feel like, oh, well, I have to be an artist full time, and I'm not a real artist because I have a day job and that and the third. Like, no, like I'm an artist. Like I am making money at art. I have a job in the arts and marketing, and that helped facilitate my art career. So I am doing what I love. I'm thriving. I'm working with great clients. I'm working with great collaborators. I'm making a difference. So it's like I'm happy internally and I'm able to put that out there in the world. And I love being able to talk about what I do, inspiring the next generation of artists because a lot of artists continue to pour into me, like George that I mentioned. So I see a thriving artist as somebody that is doing what they love, giving back, and creating opportunities.
Fork in the road between thriving and starving artists is where I'm at. I really like your work. I can't eat lights. I need new heights. Just want to make a living doing the work I love. Throw the notion of a starving artist out of the window. Take the elevator down to the ground floor and jump on it some more.
Welcome to the Fork in the Road podcast again, and today we are lucky enough to be speaking with Raheem Nelson. Now, he's an artist who does just about everything in the art space, but I think he could be best described as a visual storyteller. That's the one theme I've seen throughout your work. How are you going today? Live from New York.
Yeah, I love New York City.
One thing I noticed that you do a lot of, and I'm really interested in, I've never heard of it before, but which is your graphic recording. Can you explain to the audience what that is and how you got into that?
Sure. So graphic recording is the mainstay of my art business. And it's something that I did for my day job for a company in Brooklyn a few years ago. But I was commuting back and forth from Connecticut to Brooklyn every day, so it was like a lot. So what I did, I left that and I started my own graphic recording practice, so to speak. So I work with nonprofits and for-profits primarily. Either they're in like health, tech, different sectors. It's usually speaking engagements or fireside chats or even conferences. And what I'm doing is I'm going into these meetings and these conferences and I'm summarizing what the speaker or speakers are talking about and I'm doing it live. So essentially, I like to explain to people, it's like I'm basically taking the information and turning it into live infographics. And that's good for the audience, especially if you're a visual learner, you can see it all coming together. And it also facilitates and helps the speaker with what they're talking about too. I paint and draw on an Apple iPad. So what I usually do is I hook it up into the projector so everybody can see the artwork coming together and they can come over and interact with me as I'm doing it or afterward. I just did one for Southern Connecticut State University, and that was a lot of fun because we focused on like marine biology. So I'm learning a lot with them. I'm getting to work with different professors and create artwork that helps students and the staff as well. So I love the artwork that I do in terms of the graphic recording, especially because I get to learn something new, and then I'm helping the client and the attendees too.
That sounds like a really frightening gig. Like I imagine you need to be completely locked in, and you're not only listening to what's being said, you need to be able to pick out the key points of what's being said and
Absolutely.
work out what to illustrate of that. Do you normally get a bit of a briefing first as to like what the main points are, or some of them are just
absolutely.
like a free flowing thing?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. So I usually schedule meetings with the client like a week or 2 weeks before the actual conference or event. Any slide decks they may have, branding, color palettes, like all that stuff at forefront. So what I can do is create a graphic, like the title of the talk or the event. If there are panelists, for example, maybe I'll illustrate some of the panelists and put that into the graphic. That stuff is done beforehand. Any logos go on the illustration, and everything else is blank. And when I get to the actual talk, then I'm filling in that stuff live, like whatever they're talking about, discussing, be a Q&A or what have you. So it's kind of a dance of having the stuff that I've done, the prep work, and then the things that I'm doing live. And then the client knows what's going to be drawn, but they, usually give me a lot of freedom as well. It's usually not that strict because, it's very new. And at the same time, I think I have such a repertoire of work. People hire me knowing they're going to get something creative and free flowing and fun. So yeah, it's just been a lot of fun working with these different brands and companies to help them tell the story.
Yeah, I think that sounds like a really fun way of. It certainly beats the what would you call it? The PowerPoint presentation
Right.
of old. It actually makes it entertaining and fun, and and keeps people a lot more engaged in the process.
Hmm.
I'm just wondering. So you've been, I think you've been using the iPads from quite early. And
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, well, what drew you initially to the iPad to create your work?
Yeah, that's a great question too. I've actually been using iPad since the first one came out, and I've been doing a lot of research, probably like a few months before it came out, because they weren't even letting anybody in the press see them. Like it came out, you bought it, you just have to go pick it out in stores and everything. And so I think a few months after it came out, I saw a YouTube video. Somebody was using Autodesk Sketchbook Pro, and I was like, "Oh, it's a drawing pad." Like I had no idea you could actually draw on it. And the first sketchbook was like, it was cool, but like at the same time, the first iPad did not have that much memory. So it was like crashing a lot. So it was like an
Yeah,
uphill battle. But now it's gotten to the point where the memory's amazing, and I'm using it for everything that I create. But what drew me to it was I have a background in cartooning and comic books. I went to school of visual arts. So I did a little bit of Photoshop work, but for the most part, I'm drawing pages on like bristle board. Use a lot of bristle board, and then I would put that together into a book and print it out for myself, my friends, and sell them and stuff. But I wanted to streamline my process, and when I found out that there was this drawing tablet, and I knew about drawing tablets before, like with Wacom tablets and everything, but I was never really able to connect with them like I was with this iPad. Like I'm just drawing on the glass and getting this feedback. I'm able to use the stylus, and I just fell in love with it. Like I got the
yeah,
iPad specifically for drawing, and it's transformed my career. Like it's made it so I can work with clients easier. I can just send files back and forth, and it's just kind of fostered everything else that I do in terms of technology. Like I'm a tech artist. Like I'm always
yeah.
trying to learn new information about drawing software, programs, cameras, videography. So it just kind of snowballed into this whole thing where I'm pretty much like my own art media production company.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting thing. I mean, you become. I mean, I recently got well, not recently, a couple of years ago, got an iPad, and because I'm a parent and on the move and everything like that, like you can't take the studio wherever you're going. You can't take all
Right.
your paints and your pens and your things, and it's very convenient. And as for you, I imagine because you're based in New Haven, I imagine you do a lot of commuting as well, and
Hmm.
you can create on the move, which is a really good feature, I think, for artists. I'm just wondering, are you using Procreate on the iPad?
Yeah, I am. So what I did was I started with Sketchbook, and then I downloaded this app called Brushes, which is amazing because that was one of the first programs on the iPad that enabled the feature for time-lapse videos. So I was turning that into animations, like a little bit of animation that I would sell to clients. So that was great. It was very lucrative and a lot of fun. And then downloaded Art Rage, which comes from some good friends of mine in Australia, and a lot of other different programs. And so I got Procreate. And Procreate is amazing because I literally use it for everything. I use it for my digital oil paintings, cartooning, my illustration work, my design work. It just does everything that I needed. And just with the constant updates that Procreate Files continue to implement, it's a program that I see myself using for a very long time. And they just
Yeah.
have one flat food, and then you do this, you're good to go.
And that's one thing I found really interesting. That not only do you do your comic style illustration, but you do like an oil painting style on Procreate. Can you explain what the differences are between like because you do oil paintings? I don't want to say in real life, but like
No, no,
old,
that's
old
funny that you
fashioned as
say
opposed.
that too, because I'm gonna be doing, so I have a piece of artwork that I did for a client. The design, I'll say like, I don't want to say it wasn't approved. We went with another version. So we had it printed out. I ended up keeping this version of it. So it was for a cosmetic dentistry. It says "Smile, you deserve it." So it was like a Monet-inspired digital painting. I spent a little bit of time in Europe years ago, and I went to the Louvre and I went to Orsay and all these other places, and really fell in love with impressionist painting. And I was like, cool, like I really want to do something with that. So when I talked to, and this client is my wife's boss because my wife works at a cosmetics industry. So I came up with the design, we talked about it, and she had the tagline "Smile, you deserve it." So I painted that where it kind of looks like this pink neon type of font, but it's painted to look like an oil painting, and then vines that are around this logo. So the dimensions were off on the first go at it. So what I'm gonna do is I have it in my basement now, this first version of the digital art piece. I'm gonna paint over it in oils. So it's gonna be kind of like digital meets traditional arts, and that's pretty much my what I'm into anyway, like just merging the two. So I'm
Yeah,
always into taking my background as a cartoonist, as an oil painter, just merging the two. Like I love brushstrokes, I love impressionism, portraiture. I want to get back into that, and I think just having that tactile feedback in terms of using the oils, setting up the studio is a lot of fun. And digital is what I do for the most part.
yeah.
Um, but oils are just so much fun, and I absolutely love it. I have some murals in New Orleans, actually, going back to the oils thing. I worked with this client who had a sushi restaurant a few years ago. So he flew me out to New Orleans, did these two gigantic wall murals. Like it pretty much encompasses like half the restaurant. And I kind of storyboarded it, planned it out, and I did a digital illustration of it, sent that to him for approval, and then he flew me down to New Orleans, and I did the rest of it, like actual walls in person. But I really like being able to, if I'm doing something in traditional media for a client, I like to create a mock-up first so they can
Yeah.
see that, and then I'm able to do traditional media. But I see myself kind of going back into oils here and there, and I did some
Hmm.
work for Yale, and they had me paint on this large, what was it, canvas? It was like a big panel. Uh, so being able to, again, do the mock-ups and then do the oils, just like so much fun. And I get to like kind of pull on all these other things that I'm into. And, that I went to art school for.
So that big mural job you got, was that the first one you done? And like, how do you just did someone just say, we want this really big job, and you just nervously,
Yeah.
as an artist say yes, and then try and work out how the hell to do it later? Like,
I
how
was
how did
very
you,
nervous about it. It was my
how did,
it was my it was my first solo mural. Like I had done murals in the past, but it was always a
yeah,
community project. I'd never done one
yeah,
by myself. And when I saw how big this was, like, oh man, I don't know if I can finish this. But he gave me the key to the restaurant. It was like before they opened. So I was able to go like odd hours of the night, enjoy some jazz music, and then go back to the restaurant. It was like right in the French Quarter, and then
yeah,
just finish up. It just made it really easy where I could make my own hours. It was like as long as you get it done, like it's cool. So it was
yeah?
great.
That sounds like living the dream there.
It was so much fun.
So how did you go about getting the art on the wall? Like I spoke to a mural artist before. I find this fascinating, and she does like I think it's like a doodle board where you kind of like paint on a grid with some shapes and things like that, and
hmm
then you sketch out your image from there. Or some people use projectors. I'm just wondering how did you go from getting it on your screen to on the wall?
I pretty much freehanded it. I had the reference for the mock-up that I created, but I really wanted it to be like ornate, but also have a lot of energy to it.
Yeah.
So all I did was like just do a rough sketch, like I was cartooning, rough sketch, and then I kind of did an outline, and I did fill-ins for the oil paints, and then that
Hmm.
was about it. I started with a painting to reference the famous Japanese tidal wave. So that's in like the first corner of the restaurant, and so that flows into this umbrella that a geisha character is holding. It's all Japanese iconography. And then there's like a samurai and a dragon, and then like a woman that controls the dragon on the far side of the second mural. So it's like two ornate pieces telling one story. And I just got like nothing but positive feedback on it. Like I went back to visit the restaurant because I was there for another job. So it'd been like, I want to say like 8 years since I finished the mural. And I never had a chance to really be in the restaurant, enjoy the mural. So I had to go visit. And the owner was like super excited to see me and just really happy that the work not only came out so great, but like it just helped add to his business. And the food's amazing too. Like it's just a great restaurant on its own, but like having the artwork there kind of augments everything. So I love having my artwork in public spaces like that.
Just a quick intermission to say that the Fork in the Road podcast has a Patreon as well, where you get a whole bunch of special things. You get an extended hour-long advert-free things, like you get to ask the podcast guests questions. You get a blog where I deep dive things which, you know, might help make you successful and me successful, because I'm learning along the way too. You can also chat with me one-on-one and talk about your art business and make it work together. Back to the interview.
Now, you've got a very strong personal brand. Anyone who's seen you on Instagram or whatever, Raheem Nelson, you are an incredibly sharp dressed man. And
Thanks.
and I'm just wondering, is that a part of your personal brand, or does that give you confidence, or is that something,
Absolutely.
or is that how you kind of would dress anyway? And do you have a sponsor?
It's definitely
Because
both. I love to dress well, and I think it's something that I've cultivated for, I want to say since like college, sort of like the tail end of college. I started really starting to get into menswear, and I got into GQ magazine, Esquire magazine, and then a brand called the Tie Bar. And the Tie Bar, they make affordable men's clothing. They started with tie clips and then socks and ties. And I started to network with them. And then I eventually created, I want to say like their fall and winter lookbook. I was hired to do that. And then I worked retail for them. And I really learned the ins and outs of curating a wardrobe, and it became like really natural. Like it started off where I was just like wearing suits every day, styling suits and things like that. But
yeah,
now it just kind of turned into, okay, I want to wear a suit because I'm going to the office and it's going to be pinstripe, or I'm going to a gala, I'm going to wear a tuxedo, I'm going to style it like this, or maybe I'm going to a cocktail hour, I'm going to wear the same tuxedo, but it's just going to be with like maybe a leopard print shirt or something like buttoned all the way to the top. So just dressing for the occasion and curating my wardrobe, and that also goes hand in hand with me being an artist, because I go into the room, you know, dress a certain way, carry myself a certain way. It opens doors, and it's part of the personal brand. Like I love being able to know the history of fashion, but being able to develop personal style. I think personal style is more important to me than fashion. Like my thing is like I love staying up to date on trends. It's like, okay, I'm gonna pick from this, I'm gonna pick from that, but I'm not really gonna do every little thing that I see, because I'm trying to just develop my personal style that works for me. And that connects back to the Instagram, because I pretty much do these videos where it's like I'm showing what I'm wearing each day, or giving reasoning behind why I'm wearing something for a particular day. Like today, I'm commuting, hanging out with friends, so I wore a bomber jacket today, but the bomber jacket is actually reversible. So I wore it yesterday a different way than I'm wearing it today. And then these
yeah,
glasses I'm wearing because they go with the jacket,
I
and then
know.
with the hoodie
It's
as well.
incredible.
Like that.
Yeah.
That's,
and, And I didn't
Yeah.
have any
I mean,
suits in my wardrobe. Like I felt like I should have dressed up.
well, I'm glad
But
I wear a suit today because like it's a little muggy, but I would not be wearing a suit today. But like I've got a linen and seersucker and everything, but if I'm not
yeah,
going for like a business meeting and it's like maybe a little more casual, I do give myself that room to wear something that's like elevated but like casual too. And I think
yeah,
that's how I've been not rigid when it comes to styling myself. Like I used to
yeah,
feel like, oh, it has to always be a suit and tie. Like, no, it's
yeah,
not the
yeah,
case. Like, it could be something else.
yeah,
I'm really into wearing like polos, for instance, like polos and a bomber jacket or polos and a leather jacket, maybe wide leg trousers. So I read a lot of books too. So aside from like going on Pinterest and Instagram,
yeah.
traveling, seeing what other people are wearing, um, and books that like Esquire and GQ publish, and just kind of curating what I want to pick from different things. Like I love wearing like doing a Canadian tuxedo actually. That's been like one of my things. Like the denim jacket, pants that are, similar shade, and then like brown suede Chelsea boots. Like just really clean look. And that's something like
Yeah.
I'll do if I'm running errands or something.
You're your own fashion photographer,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
so you're the photographer, you're and the model, and the
Yeah,
like.
I've
Are you
gotten
actually
that.
are you actually doing stuff as for brands as well for like for modeling fashion stuff and photographing?
I'm always looking to do more. I think it has ebbs and flows. Like I've done some modeling. I did some modeling recently for an editorial. For it wasn't for the Met, but we did it at the Met Museum. It was for NB Media, and they did this really amazing editorial that was inspired by the Met Gala. I've done work in collaboration with other menswear bloggers, like my friend Diego. He goes by the name Dandy in the Bronx. I've done a few things with Combatant Gentlemen. They were a brand that was discontinued, but I did some modeling for them. And I did a few things for the Thai bar here and there. And I'm looking at working with a few bespoke and made-to-measure brands. A good friend of mine goes by the name, well, his brand is called Threads by T. So he made me a custom garment. It's like an oversized shirt with a floral pattern on it. So I did some modeling for his brand. We're going to be working together on a fashion show, so that's exciting. But for the most part, I'm going in my studio, taking my own fashion photos, and I'm putting that online to just promote what I'm wearing. It just makes it so much easier if I can just go into the studio, work, and just get the stuff out.
On another thing, so with your cartooning style, that kind of led you to you've done some kids book illustrations, and
Hmm.
you've also that's kind of developed into a collaboration that you did with a hip hop artist, Skyzoo, which is
Yeah,
another
yeah.
illustrated piece. Can you
Hmm.
tell us a little bit about that collaboration and how that came about?
Absolutely. This is a project it's one of the projects I'm most proud of, just because of what it means to me and what it means to the artist. So the story behind it is I met hip hop artist Skyzoo years ago, and I've been following his music for like probably close to 10 years, maybe over 10 years now. And I created a work of art based on his likeness after listening to his debut album because he did a lot of mixtapes. So I put that on Twitter. He saw it. He said, "Oh, it's really cool." We connected, networked over the years, but nothing really came out of it until I started working at the Thai bar, actually in New York City, one of their pop-up shops. So I saw on Twitter he posted something to the effect of, "Oh, if you bought my second album, I think it was, post in the comments if you're in the New York City area, like I might come and see you or something." We're like, all right, whatever. Like, oh, this happens. So I said, hey, I'm at
Yeah,
this pop-up shop. I think we're on like Mulberry Street or something. And then he was like, okay, like I'll come by. And I was like, all right. So I tell my manager, like, oh, this hip-hop artist is coming by. He's gonna check out the shop. He's gonna say hi. So she doesn't believe me either. But then he comes in with his team. I'm like, this is crazy. So we talk a little bit. He tells me that he's performing at the Blue Note Jazz Club later that night. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna come by after my shift. So I do that, goes really well. And then we started to do business together because I interviewed him about one of his albums. It was like a sit down interview, went really well. And then he needed a photographer for the speaking engagement. So I was like, hey, like, I'll do it. Like, I'll come to the city and I'll hook it up. So I did that as a favor, took some great photos, did some video. And then from there, we just developed this friendship and this business relationship. And I interviewed him for his album that came after it, which was the one that I did the art book on. And this album, he's pretty much, not pretty much, but he's rapping from the perspective of the character from a John Singleton created show called Snowfall, which is set in Los Angeles. So he's embodying this character in like a method acting type of situation and telling the story from point A to point B. So if you watch the show, you'll be able to get more out of the album. So I interviewed him on this album, not having seen the show. I was like, okay, like tell me about the show, what inspired you. So after that interview, I watched the show in its entirety. I got even more out of the album. I was like, oh, this is a really amazing piece of artwork. I was like, hey, like, I wonder if like this is something we can collaborate on and maybe I can do a companion piece to it. So I think first the idea was to do an art gallery show. And that still may happen. But what happened was like I think it might be more interesting if we do an art book. And
Yeah.
we had an art show in Atlanta because he's in Atlanta now. He used to be in Brooklyn. He was born in Brooklyn, raised in Brooklyn. So he had an art show and he sourced pieces from different people, different artists that captured different songs on the album. So I had this idea before he did the show, but like after he did the art show and they included one of my pieces, it's like a concept piece that I'll put it in the book later. Like, okay, we really have to do something about this. Like, this thing has legs because this art show with all this collective of different artists went really well, and people were really passionate about the project. So it was a 2-year project. I wanted to get it done a little faster to kind of coincide with the deluxe edition of this album that he had because he did a re-release. But
Yeah.
it took a little longer than I thought, but I think it was worth it because I was able to grow closer with him. We had a lot of conversations about his music, a lot of conversations about my art and how that would fit into the project. And this became an official companion piece to this album. The album is called The Mind of a Saint, and my art book that I created with him is called The Mind of a Saint Illustrated. So it's in the same family of
Yeah.
the show and the album, and then the companion piece book. And we were able to do a book signing at Trinity College in Connecticut. I was able to get him booked as a performer. Uh, I got booked as a visual artist for the event, and we had a limited edition press run because since I was referencing the Charles Schultz peanut style, I did not want to do like an extended run, copyright issues and all that. So we just did a short
Right.
run, reference the style, and I had to do a lot of work with the project because he's a very lyrically dense hip hop artist. So I know the show, I know his music, but there are like double, triple entendres. So I had to take like one part of the song, and that's going to become the illustration. I had to do that for I think how many tracks there were. I think 14 tracks. So the first album was 11, no, it's like 10 tracks, I think. And then the re-release, he added on a few more tracks. So it was just a lot of conversations with him to make sure I had an understanding of the music. I would come to him with an idea, storyboard it, say, hey, this is what I want to do for this page. Does it work for you? Does
Mhm.
it work for the lyrics and song and all that? And there weren't that many revisions. Like, he had a few additions for, a few pictures here and there, but I'm a collaborator, huge fan of his music, and then also a friend now. So, like, if he's talking about his lyrics, I'm going to listen to his songs. I'm picking up things. I'm like, oh, okay, I can illustrate this, and it's referencing this line in this song, and I can put it here. So there's just like a whole narrative behind it. So it's a super rewarding project to be able to create an art book with my favorite hip hop artist. So it's honestly a dream project, and it's something that I have on my bookshelf at home. With signed
Yeah.
copies for friends and family, and even students because we did at the Trinity Art College, Trinity Hip Hop Festival, and the college bought copies for students. So being able to have this workshop with him and the students, and then being able to gift them the copies, sign the copies, and get all these questions and feedback was like just phenomenal. Like as an artist, like I really couldn't ask for a better kind of experience.
Seems like you've got this incredible skill to be able to take a whole bunch of information which might be quite dense and pick out the key pieces. It seems like, you know, it kind of like goes back to your graphic recording
Yeah,
style thing. You're able to be able to pick out the essence of a story. Yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah.
find that
I think it's the graphic recording. Active listening. Active listening is super important with graphic
Mhm.
recording. Because I'm listening, but then I'm actively scribing, and it's happening in
Yeah.
real time. So it's like
Yeah.
a lot going on. So what I'll do is I'll hear the information, I'll write down what I think is the main idea, and I'll do that a few times on the Illustrator, and then
Yeah.
I'll make little icons to go along with what's on the text. So it could be like network marketing or maybe some statistics in the health field, some kind of transformation that a business is trying to cause. I always write things down first, and then the illustration comes next because I don't want to miss that. Like if everything's flying by, so it's like I'll do this and I'll circle
Yeah.
back and I'll create a little illustration to go with that. And then it just kind of flows together. Like I use a lot of arrows and circle
Yeah.
containers to just tie everything together. And it's like
Yeah.
kind of telling a story in real time and receiving information, telling the story, and having freedom from the client to put it all together. And I have a thing too, like I try to give the client their finished artwork before I leave the job site. Like, you know, I could go back to the studio
Yeah.
or whatever, email them. I really try not to do that because I'm asking for a deposit and then, you know, the rest of the fee on the back half. I want to make sure they get what they need to.
That's awesome. Well, thank you very much, Raheem. And
Thank you, Andy.
yeah, enjoy the rest of your day, and hopefully catch up with you again sometime.
Yeah, absolutely. This is fun.
Thank you so much for listening to the Fork in the Road podcast or watching the Fork in the Road podcast. For those people watching on Patreon, we also have it as a video on Spotify and YouTube. If you like the idea of chatting with artists, talking about how you go from starving to thriving, how you become a successful artist, whatever that means to you, whatever a thriving artist means. If you like this kind of thing, you can support the podcast in many ways. Apart from becoming a Patreon, you can just share it with your friends, or you could leave a review on iTunes. I think iTunes do review. Whoever does reviews, if you look in your podcast channel, if it allows you to do a review, or if you're watching on YouTube, please comment, please like, you know, and I won't be one of those podcasts that go, you know, you got to give a 5-star review. If there's something about the podcast you don't like, let me know. Write it in the comments and see if I can, you know, tweak it a little bit to make it work better for everybody. But yeah, 5-star review would be pretty awesome. But anyway, check you next time.